What is going on? It's been a minute since I've made a video, but I'm back. I can't make any promises that I will be consistent at this point in time. Life is just kind of crazy right now. I have an actual job outside of this. This is just kind of for fun, so I make videos when I can. That aside, today we're hitting legs, and I'm very excited because I have really been enjoying legs lately. And if you don't enjoy training legs, then what can I say, man? You really got to you got to fix something because we all need some bigger legs. And I know that I do. I feel like legs for me is one of my weaker points, especially in the quad department. Now, we are still in a mini cut / health phase, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it's not as fun as a bulk, but they are important, especially in the context of maybe for me, I was bulking for 5 months and I just couldn't put down any more food. And it's a little bit of time before I'm getting ready to start prep. So I kind of wanted to bring my body fat levels down a little bit, focus on my health, maybe not cram down so much food, and get a little bit leaner. So that's what we're doing. And it's working, and I feel good. And in about a month, we'll resume the bulk for a few months before starting prep. That way, I can just feel good, maybe go into prep and start a little bit leaner. Seems like my cats decided to turn on my computer. Hold on. Sorry about that. They are some funny little guys for sure. But anyway, so that being said, being in a health phase / mini cut / maintenance, whatever you may call it, the pumps are not as good, and that hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. Can't have the greatest pumps all the time. Looking a little bit leaner, a little bit freakier, but also a little bit smaller. It's kind of like when you first start a cut of any kind, you're generally going to look the most trash that you've ever looked. Because if you look at it from this perspective, right, you're going from loading your body with carbs constantly and going into the gym and getting these ridiculous pumps. And you might be a higher body fat percentage, but because your muscles are filled with so many carbs, the pumps are just crazy. So you have this thick, full, round look to you. And I know for me, I was getting a little bit too thick, so that's why we're pulling back a little bit. But when you start the cut, you're not lean yet, but you just pulled out all of the carbs. So you're kind of looking a little deflated, but you're also kind of at your fattest point because the bulk just ended and you're carrying more body fat than you normally would. So thankfully, I think we kind of are getting out of that phase. Definitely feeling smaller in my clothes. Definitely have just, yeah, that's it. Definitely feeling smaller in my clothes for sure. And the pumps don't last as long. I try to go to the gym with a few more meals in me than I did normally, just because for me in a bulk, if I go train towards the end of the day, I'm so full and I just can't even move. And especially for legs, like today I'm about to go eat my meal after I'm done talking to you guys before I head to the gym. And I'm going to, even in a, somewhat slight caloric deficit from where I was, I'm still eating a decent amount of food per meal. So I'm going to wait, let the food digest a little bit, and then go hit legs at the gym. So with that being said, I'm going to put down this meal, and I will see you guys at the gym. Wasting no time getting into today's leg workout, we're starting with single leg hamstring curls. Now, I really like these because it's a good way for me to connect with my hamstrings, as well as a way to warm up my knee to start off my leg workout. I typically don't need to do any form of hip warm up or mobility work as of right now. I'm sure it would benefit me, but Right now, these are working just fine, and with the weight I'm using, I can get a solid 8 to 12 reps before moving into my next movement. But as you can see, we're going slow and controlled all the way up to the top, squeezing for a second before letting it back down. Watching the clips back here, I definitely could be a little more strict with my form, but with that, you could also say I might be putting a little less tension on my hamstrings. So it's really what you're going for. Are you trying to build a deep connection, or are you just going for a tight squeeze? And then we see it from a different angle here, kind of let you guys see different kinds of angles. Before doing these, I was also doing double, like both legs at the same time, and I switched to the single leg just because I do want to start prioritizing more single leg movements in my leg workouts, and just, you know, kind of maybe work out some imbalances that could be going on there. And it's also just good to throw in some, you know, unilateral movements in every once in a while. Now, at the tail end of this third set here, you'll see me kind of go into a drop set. And this kind of drop set is just a mechanical drop set where I switch from using one leg to two. And I don't increase the weight or anything. I just, you know, finish with the right leg and the left leg and then go straight into two legs. As you can see, I'm kind of rocking a little bit back and forth. My legs are getting a little fatigued. Might be throwing some lower back in there, but I don't think it's hurting anything too bad. Moving on to the next exercise, the weight stack has gone up a couple pins, and we're just doing two legs at the same time. This weight was a little bit too much. As you can see, my lower back is flexing a little bit too much. So I do lower the weight for the next set, as you'll see in a second here. Setting up on the side. And then also re-watching, I can see that my range of motion is a little bit short. So I can definitely take this information, and the next time I hit this movement, make sure that I drop my legs down just a little bit more, and also just rock a little bit less. I'm kind of jerking the weight a little bit too much, and I do turn this set into a drop set, I believe, before yet again moving on to my next movement. We're now moving on to Smith RDLs. Unfortunately, I am a short king, so I need a box in order for me to go all the way down. With these, I'm not going all the way up. This just feels better for me and keeps the tension on my hamstrings. If I go all the way up and lock it out, I just, you know, my glutes get a little too fatigued, and I'm not really trying to focus my glutes. As you can see, I think I'm kind of succeeding in the gluteal department, so I want to focus on building up my hamstrings. And if I need to do isolated glute work, I can do that a little bit later. But just taking 3 plates for a ride, going up and down, and the pump cover comes off. I was getting a little warm. Thankfully, I had the wife beater on underneath, so it wasn't too bad. I also didn't want to sweat through my shirt too much, which unfortunately did not happen because I put the shirt back on later in the workout, as you'll see. Just kind of doing the same thing from different angles here, really focusing on pushing the hips back and keeping the knees locked in place. I definitely see a lot of people doing these wrong. They kind of, you know, just bend forward instead of pushing the hips back. You kind of want to act like a door hinge, not necessarily folding over like a piece of paper, because that is no good. Angles are getting a little bit juicier over here, but just 3 straight sets. I believe these were 10 reps. Calves are also looking pretty nice, if I do say so myself, but those will need to get better over time for sure. So that does it for hamstrings. Moving on to quads, I'm doing Smith split squats. I did 2 sets of these. Unfortunately, I only recorded 1. My head was massively hurting after this first set, as these are a relatively new movement to me. I'm kind of throwing them into the rotation to focus on building a better mind-muscle connection with my quads. I feel like my quads are one of my most lacking body parts. I'm trying to build the sweep up, so for me, I can push a good amount of weight, but I don't really have the best connection, and for me, starting with these gives my quads a nice burn, and honestly, it sets me up for a better mind-muscle connection later in the workout. But I rest a little bit in between each leg just because I am kind of fatigued after one leg. You can do both, like you can do the next leg right after the other. I just find that I'm not able to get the same amount of reps on the second leg, and I would like to have even quads if that is so possible. But not doing too much weight on these, only have 110 pounds on the bar, and no, I do not count the bar weight on Smith machine because due to the counterweights and things like that, I'm not too sure how much it weighs, but we're all done with those. Just imagine a second set. We're moving on to the Cybex squat press. I love this machine. It's kind of different from a regular leg press. It kind of goes at an angle, whereas a leg press is kind of straight up and down in a diagonal line. This kind of has more of a natural curve to it, but I have my feet low on the platform and toes pointed forward to isolate the quads, and we're just really going for a deep stretch on these. I think I got 10 to 12 reps on that set, so you can't really see from this angle, but I moved up to 8 plates for 8 reps, just trying to maintain some strength while I am in a health phase because I want to hold on to as much mass as I can on these itty bitty quads of mine. But this feels really good. I'm able to get a really deep stretch on my quads, and the lower you put your feet and the more your knees can track over your toes, the more you will be hitting your quads, and that is what I need the most. So we're just going to rep these sets out, and while I'm doing these, I'm just constantly thinking about how much pain my legs are in and just my overall body at this point. As you can see, the pump cover has come back on. I started to cool off, which I don't want. I want to stay warm through my workout and sustain a pump as best as possible. And just moving through the angles here. If you have access to this machine, I'd highly recommend trying it out. It is great. It is a lot different from a regular leg press. I wouldn't say it's a complete substitute. It is just different, and as you can see, regular barbell squats are absent from this lift. So I typically cycle through squats or Smith squats, hack squat, or the squat press. I know that's a good amount, but it's a good variety, but a similar movement pattern to kind of achieve a similar result. Especially when we're in these health phases, cutting phases, and stability, or maybe just overall endurance is lower, and you can't push as much weight on a barbell squat that you could on something like a squat press or a hack squat. I typically tend to lean on those movements more, whereas in the bulking season, I will typically go for more of the barbell type movements. So just let it be known that you will see squats more frequently when we are bulking. Here we are moving on to the pendulum squat, but I'm doing it a little bit different than normal. My feet are low. You'll be able to see it better in the next clip here, but I'm doing them sissy style, so I'm coming up onto my toes and my heels are lifting off of the pad. This is to isolate the quads, and I'm pausing at the bottom. This is just to force an excessive amount of blood into the quads. I only have 1 plate on this thing. I don't need much more than that at this point in my workout. If you have weak knees, I would definitely be careful trying this out. Definitely go slow. Try it without any weight. You can do it body weight style, holding on to a machine as well. Definitely want to make sure you have flexible knees for this one. Otherwise, you could mess your shit up, which would not be good, especially if you're trying to build your quads like me. So we're moving on to the next clip here in a second, which you will be able to see my heels coming off of the pad a little bit better. But these really good, guys. I think a lot of people fall into the mistake of trying to lift heavy throughout the entire lift, and I definitely have lifts myself where I do that, but you don't want to do that all the time. It's good to have an arsenal of different movements so that you can kind of hit a muscle in different ways, and it's really just a better way of protecting yourself against those days where you just mentally don't have it to go balls to the walls the entire workout, where you're squatting 4 plates for reps, leg pressing 9 plates per side, whatever you have, and then finishing off with 2 25-pound lunges, and then you're just absolutely destroyed crawling out of the gym. These movements you might not match on an intensity level, but your quads will be just filled and engorged with blood by the time you leave. Here we are at the final movement of today's leg workout. These are leg extensions on this machine. This machine's kind of weird. This gym does not have my most favorite leg extensions. The single leg one is definitely better than the bilateral one they have here, but it's still not ideal. The only thing I like about it is that you can load plates on the side where you can see the 45, which is going to be more, I feel it more in the overall like body of my quad, whereas the little 10s that you see at the front is hitting more of that teardrop. But I have the seat a little further back, so I'm kind of leaning, and that's just to kind of pre-stretch my quad, so they're kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to flexing it. And the range of motion kind of looks a little wonky on here, but I guarantee you there is a lot of squeezing and a lot of blood going into the quads here. And yeah, we started with a single leg movement, ending with a single leg movement. But I would like to have a nicer 2-leg leg extension, because I can definitely start with those sometimes and just go really heavy if it's like, you know, the machine tracks really smooth, and then I can just kind of rep it out and just get an insane quad pump at the beginning of my lift, if that's what you like to do. And it's really just lift dependent. But yeah, I upped the weight a little bit. I put 25s on the side there, as you can kind of see in the corner of the screen. And my quads are pretty pumped at this point in the workout. If I could get my quads to look like this at the start of my workout, that would be great. We would be chilling. I definitely think my quads pumped up right now balance out my physique a lot. And for me, I think your muscles are in a good spot if, when you have a pump, if it just completely dwarfs everything on your body that's unpumped. To me, that's kind of a good sign that you're overall even. If you have a muscle that when it's pumped up, it looks like it completes your physique, you should probably focus on that muscle a little bit more. So that's what we're doing. And the reason I should have explained this earlier, that I start with hamstrings, is because I want to warm up my knees, and I'd like to rely on knee pads a little bit less. Maybe once I get into the off season, I'll throw them on a little bit more to throw around some heavier weight. But for now, I'd like to focus on keeping my knees healthy, and when I put on knee sleeves, I tend to not focus on that as much. But as you can see, we're doing a drop set here. I took the 10s off. First I took off the 25s, then the 10s, and now we're here. But that is going to conclude the quads, and now you will see the pose down.
Alright, so legs are done. And I already took my pump cover off earlier because I was starting to sweat through it a little bit, and I wanted to preserve it because I didn't bring an extra shirt. But I put it back on because I got cold. So I sweat through it anyway because I'm, a dumbass. But probably not going to take it off again. We're just going to check out this leg pump. You can't really see any definition because, they're so pumped, but they're looking pretty beefy. And I will lift this shirt so we can see the taper a little bit, but okay, I can work with that. We are in that mini cut health phase, so legs are looking a little bit healthy, a little less freaky, but I think health is important. So don't lose sight of that for sure. But, you know, we did some fun movements today. We did some Smith RDLs. I've been doing those my past few leg workouts that you guys haven't seen. I promise I've been doing them. And I've been doing a lot more single leg stuff for quads, and not as much today. We did the split squats on the Smith machine. I only recorded one set because honestly they're kind of ass, and I just wanted to get them done, to be honest. But I did 2 sets there, and I ended the second set with a drop set. I probably went over that in the post workout commentary when I'm editing this. And then we did the single leg extensions at the end. But yeah, and then we also did the sissy squats on the pendulum squat. Those were brutal, to say the least, but pretty awesome. I would say today was a very successful leg day. Now, I'm tired. I want to get out of here. Of course, I'm going to finish with calves because if you can see these little guys, they're not looking too hot, and I built them up a decent bit over my 5-month bulking season, and I'd like to maintain as much as I can before I go into the next bulk before my show. So without further ado, I'm sure I'll see you in the car, but for now, it is goodbye. But not for too long. That is a wrap on perhaps the most neglected muscle group in the human body, at least when it comes to the dudes. And if you don't believe me, they made an entire competitive division for those that are dedicated to the craft of skipping leg day. So don't skip legs. They're very important for rounding out the entire physique. But in all honesty, I love training legs. I think, you know, it's hard for me to decide. If I had to choose a favorite muscle group, I would say it depends on what day it is. If it's chest day, my favorite muscle is chest. If it's leg day, my favorite muscle is legs. So I just love everything. But I specifically love leg day because with chest, you kind of go into the gym and you just kind of feel like, for lack of a better word, an alpha male, a giga chad, the top G, whatever you want to call it, you know. You just go in. You don't really have to motivate yourself because chest is just motivating in and of itself. You know what I mean? You puff out your chest, you hit some bench, you hit some chest press, you know, you feel like a cool dude. But with legs, you know, sometimes you just have to push extra hard. And that leg day will put some hair on your chest, let me tell you, for sure, right? You go in there, you don't really want to do it, but you do it anyway. And if you go into leg day and you're not scared, there's something wrong. You might not be hitting legs. You might be hitting your pussy. You got to make it a little challenging. You got to do some stuff that you don't really want to do. But after you're done, it's like, we did it, boys. We crushed leg day. But in all honesty, we did some good movements today. I'm really feeling the single leg hamstring curls at the beginning. Now, some may be opposed to starting with an isolation movement at the beginning of your workout. But for me, it's perfect on leg day, right? As I just said, you got to push yourself starting with an easy single leg movement. But it actually serves a purpose, right? So the hamstring curls, whether it's seated or lying down, it's going to warm up your knee without putting any pressure on your knee. And on top of that, the single leg allows me to focus on just isolating one leg and squeezing, and then I move into 2 legs at the same time. And then I can really like squeeze. And then by the time I moved on to my RDLs, my hamstrings were already warm. I might have fatigued the strength a little bit, 5 to 10%. So I'm sacrificing a little bit of strength, but I'm making sure that my body is warm and that my joints are lubricated so that when I do the RDLs, I'm at a lesser risk of injuring myself. I think you all can get behind that logic. And then we moved on to some quads. You know, similar logic with the quads. The knees are already warmed up, but my quads aren't necessarily warmed up. So I start with the single leg to kind of get a little bit of a stimulus going in the quads. And then by the time I move into whether it's a squat press, a leg press, a squat, or what have you, my knees are already warm. My quads have a little bit of a pump, you know, sacrificing a little bit of that strength. We're still going to go as heavy as we can, but we're warm. So, sorry, there's a little bit of a traffic issue going on here. Someone didn't know how the road worked, unfortunately, but I digress. So what are we going to do after we hit legs? Well, I already did my cardio this morning. I woke up and did it fasted, so we don't have to worry about that. Post-workout, I got my cereal in, got my carbs, got my protein. We've already begun the muscle repair process. And now I'm just going to go home and rest. I'm going to edit the video. I'm going to do the post-workout commentary. Probably say some of the things I'm saying right now. So this is going to be a repeat of what I'm saying. But it's all fine and dandy, you know. Sometimes you learn through repetition, just like the workouts, right? You grow through repetition. So multiple reps build your muscles. If you hear something multiple times, you'll get smarter. I'm not saying I'm the guy that's going to make you smarter, but I hope you can learn something. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching today's leg workout. I hope you guys crush legs as well. Don't skip cardio. Get your meals in. Don't eat like an asshole, and have a nice day.